a week into my dad being at the hospital, I had an opportunity to just spend a few moments to write down what I really thought about my dad, and kind of in the idea that I was hoping that when he woke up, that he would be able to read this, because with our dad, it was difficult at times to share our feelings, like what we really thought, and so I wanted to just write it down as a letter to him. And so I'm just going to read that, and then I'll maybe share a few thoughts after that. I've often reflected on the relationship I have with my father, and have wrestled with a wide range of thoughts and feelings over the years. And based on conversations with many friends throughout my adult life, this seems to be the natural course. This is especially true after we have sons and daughters of our own. Although I approach and see life much differently than my father, I have grown to greatly admire and respect the great distance he has traveled in his lifetime. A distance traveled to give my brothers and I every opportunity to succeed in life. We often think of the success in the context of finances or social status, but it goes much deeper. We have a tendency in our culture to look at the surface of everything. With people, we look at outward appearances, actions, and words. We gather everything we feel we need to know and pass judgments, or place people in boxes often without realizing we've done it. I found I often placed judgment on my dad in the past, but like ogres and onions, I came to realize he has layers. Once I took the time to peel back the layers to really see his heart, I discovered the beauty in him. Once I took the time to understand the obstacles he had overcome in his life, I gained a new insight into who he was as a man. Understanding this picture is not always easy, especially when we realize our parents are either too quick to offer excuses, or they're too stoic and not willing to share their trials. My dad was definitely in the stoic camp. He came from a home where fatherhood was not modeled and abuse was commonplace. His dad was around, but much of that time he caused more hurt and pain than comfort to his children. Fortunately, they had a loving mother who managed to hold the family together despite her difficult circumstances. She passed away when I was 6. I imagine I would have been very fond of her as my dad still is today. It is my sense that she is the one who my dad always knew loved him unconditionally. It saddened me to think that she passed so young, and how much her love would have continued to transform my dad's life as he tried to discover what it was to be a man on his own. My dad left home as quickly as he could to join the Army. It was a decision that dramatically altered the course of his life. A decision that led to the development of skills and knowledge, allowing him to achieve remarkable success in his career. A decision that would also lead to some of the emotional wounds that have never left him. I wish I had a greater picture of his Army days and how those experiences led him to other places in his journey. Maybe someday he'll be able to share more about his first wife and my half-brother Jack. I imagine some important pieces of understanding my dad's life lie there. As far as my childhood is concerned, I remember my dad as always being there for me, even when I ran away and when I did not see clearly how much he loved me. Even in the midst of the times I would have made different choices or modeled fatherhood differently. There is no debating we have different value systems, but some of the greatest gifts I've been given come from my dad. He never discouraged me from pursuing my dreams or trying some crazy idea, even if he knew he'd have to pick me up and dust me off. He valued learning and education highly, even though he was never given the opportunity to pursue learning by his father. He bought me a computer when I was in 4th grade because he understood that they were the future. He sat beside my bed early every morning when I was in the hospital until I would wake up. Now I find myself sitting beside his bed in the hospital every morning until he wakes up. He used to tickle my nose with a paper towel. And I told him the other day that I was going to return the favor, and he suggested I dip it in bacon grease to make the torture more complete. Lots of bacon jokes over the last month in that cardiac unit. So I see so clearly how much my dad has overcome in his life in order to give me the opportunity to become the man and the father I am today. He has broken many of the chains, barriers, and unhealthy cycles that tend to plague generations of families. My son and daughters have a home they can dream in and a dad who adores them because of his sacrifice. My wife has a husband who loves and adores her because of his sacrifice. It's not always easy to see or understand how God works all things for the good of those who love him. It's especially hard to see God's hand at work in those who don't believe. My dad does not yet believe but he is the one who cultivated my love for music. Now I lead worship in a church. My dad is the one that sent me to Bethel. There I met many of the people who have spoken truth into my life for many years now. Some of you are here. My dad is the one who taught me about auto mechanics, computers, and all things technical. These gifts have impacted every aspect of my life, and I hope I am able to bless others with those gifts as much as I have been blessed. And I'll stop reading it there, and I think it's fitting that we're in this place here today, because this place represents my dad. Even though he didn't come to church, I've had the opportunity in this place to help design this facility and do all this technical stuff, and he was definitely a gadget tweaker guy that taught me how to do all those things. And so this place is actually part of his legacy, and obviously all of you here are part of his legacy. My dad was able to see some things that I didn't see. The story that I want to tell you is, many of you probably don't realize this, but when I was in high school, I was going through a line at Target. I had just broken up with my girlfriend. I'm going through the checkout line at Target, and we go through the line, and my dad says, "Hey, who's that girl? See how she smiled at you?" And I said, "Oh, it's this girl, Heather, from school. She's got a boyfriend." He's like, yeah, I don't know. He's like, I think that's the girl. I think that's the girl. And I'm like, yeah, whatever, Dad, we're friends. Plus, she's got a boyfriend. And he was just really persistent about it, and it was just odd, like, what's that all about? So about a month later, maybe 6 weeks, down in Florida on a band, choir, and orchestra trip, and I call back home, and my dad says, "Hey, how's it going?" And I said, I have been talking to this girl on the trip. And he goes, "It's that girl from Target, isn't it?" And I couldn't believe it. I'm like, "Are you kidding me? How in the world do you know this?" And I said, "Yeah, it is." "Oh, see, I told you. I told you." And he absolutely adored Heather, to the point where I broke up with Heather one time, and I can't say the words he said to me in church. He's like, "What the heck is wrong with you?" And a few expletives later, and then I really knew how he felt about Heather. And fortunately, I was able to figure it out eventually, and we've been blessed in our marriage. To the point where when I got back together with Heather, most of you know sometimes how stingy the old man was. He gave me like $125 or something. Said, "Go do something nice for her, because you're such a jerk," kind of thing. And so that was really, it was pretty amazing. So I mean, my dad is part of even identifying one of the greatest gifts I've ever been given in my life, which is my wife. Last thing I want to share is that the time that the last day that we got to share together. He had been sedated for about a week while we were waiting for him to wake up, and he woke up on a Sunday, and we got to spend Sunday and Monday with him, and we even admitted to him that he was actually genuinely funny. We didn't have to have any mercy laughs at his jokes. It was just something, I don't know if it was the medications or what it was, but he was on fire. But we got to spend some sweet time, and I think the most important thing for my dad, being a person who I think was incredibly insecure about why people loved and cared for him, or if they did. Phil and I were standing at the end of the bed, and the cleaning lady who had been there for a week kind of cheering us on. I don't know where she's from in the world, but she's kind of got some broken English, and she comes up behind Phil and I at the end of the bed, and she puts her arms on us, and she looks at my dad and says, "You have good sons. You have good sons. They've been here the whole time." And I was so thankful that she did that, because I wanted my dad to understand that we loved him unconditionally. And I think that message to him towards the end of his life was the greatest thing that he needed to hear. No matter what, if he's broken and couldn't offer us anything, we were still going to be standing there beside him. And I'm thankful that we got to communicate that to him through our actions, not just our words. In our last day, there was two things that stuck out to me. I asked him on that Monday how he had slept the night before, and he said he didn't sleep well, and I looked at him and I said, "Were you afraid to close your eyes?" And he said, "Yeah." And that was the first time I saw him genuinely scared. A man who always wanted to keep his emotions inside and not reveal, just had this tough exterior. He wasn't so sure. And I don't know what happened that night, because that was the last night before before his final arrest in the quietness of that evening. But the thing I remember when I left, I looked at him and he looked at me and he said, "Hey, I love you." And it was a different kind of "I love you." It was that "I love you" from when I was 10, you know. And when he would put us to bed and he would kiss us on the head, and it was that "I love you, my little son." Kind of "I love you" was different, you know. Like in my adult life, he didn't show that much affection. So I'm thankful that we got to have that last exchange of "I love you." We didn't know it was going to be the last one. He was turning around and doing so well. But I am thankful for that time with him, and I'm thankful that I could express myself through music, because the song "The Boxer," that was the first song he taught me when I was a kid. I remember sitting on his lap and him playing it on the stereo system, and I kept saying, "There's something wrong with your speakers, Dad," because there's this distorted part at the end, you know. And he's like, "No, that's how the song's supposed to go." And that's the first song that I taught my boy, was that song. And so I'm thankful that I was able to share that with you guys here today. So thanks for being here.